Welcome to the 5th episode of No Slides Attached. I'm your host, Helene Cohen, alongside my partner and co-pilot, Fede Pacheco.
Hey, Helene. I can't believe this is our next to last episode of the first season of No Slides Attached. I really hope the producers renew us because this has been a lot of fun, especially hearing from our partners and their experiences with their customers, how we're doing more and more every day in this era of AI.
Completely agree, Fede. Before we jump in today, we want to invite you, our listeners, to share your thoughts on the podcast so far, as well as anything and everything partner related. We have an amazing LinkedIn community where you can catch up with the latest of our America's Partner World. So if you haven't joined already, you might want to take a peek at the America's Partner community.
And Helene, where can partners find all this?
We've added the link to this episode, and you can also find it in noslidesAttached.com.
Should I look at that now?
Not right now, Fede. We have a very important episode to record.
You're right. I'm sorry. And today's episode is actually really important. We've talked at length how many times, Helene, so far that data is the fuel to drive AI innovation.
Yes, we've heard it from the very first recommendation we heard from Heather Deggans on our first episode on Halo transformations, all the way to our most recent episode talking about protecting data with security.
And today, we're talking about our latest innovation in this space, Microsoft Fabric, that it really unleashes the potential of your data. And of course, it has Copilot capabilities to make insights, analysis, predictions, everything more available to everyone in your organization.
We have an awesome story today with Lantern Studios, our partner, with whom we recently published a case study for their success with avocados from Mexico.
That's right. But first, we have someone who I believe personally that he is Fabric's biggest fan in the world. So John Turk is here. He is an outdoor lover. He has, 9 bikes, John, or something like that? And he is now preparing to climb Mount Rainier. For those who are not local to Seattle, that's basically our signature mountain that you can see if the clouds are clear. But as a day job, John is a senior partner marketing leader in our Azure go-to-market team. So he's in my team. He was one of the first people that I actually met when I first joined Microsoft. And I think ever since I first met him that day, some years ago, he was already talking about this vision of what would eventually become Fabric. So I'm so happy that we have John here to talk about not only how awesome it is, but how in love he is with Microsoft Fabric.
John, welcome to No Slides Attached. Before we jump into the topic at hand, we've been asking all of our guests, what is your favorite Copilot prompt?
Ooh, thank you. And really excited to be here. Have to ask though, if this is the 5th episode and this is all around AI, how did you wait until episode number 5 to talk about Fabric? Because AI is only as good as your data, and data is how you're going to manage the sprawl and make sense of it.
John, how many years did you wait for Fabric? Wouldn't it be okay to wait a couple of episodes on top of that?
That's fair, but it's really cool to see the Fabric come. 3-4 years ago, we had the intelligent data platform strategy. Then we started moving into something that was looking at how we collected all of the data together, and now it's all come full circle into Microsoft Fabric. So it's a really exciting time. I will answer your question, though. Besides summarizing or doing my performance review for Copilot, my other favorite is actually just looking at use cases. I love Fabric, and when I look at it and I talk to partners, I try to think about what is the next use case. And as we'll talk about, it's such a comprehensive tool that a lot of times it's just helping customers think about what they could do with it. There's so many different opportunities. It's really just making that clear, concise, and then helping them adopt it.
I love that, John. And like I said, we've waited long enough for the 5th episode of No Slides Attached to talk about Fabric. You already gave us a hint because you're so excited. Tell us, for those who are never heard of it before and weren't as excited as you, tell us in simple terms, what is Fabric?
Yeah, so Microsoft Fabric, it's an exciting time for this story to come together because it's having the technology come at the same time that the opportunity is really in market. So Fabric is a comprehensive analytics platform, as you know, that we designed to be the most open, most comprehensive, and most collaborative way for data professionals across the spectrum to work with their data. So I think we all know that every organization for the past 10, 15 years knows that they need to do more with their data. And they have all the ambitions of going and doing it. But that's tough because data can be messy, it can be siloed, and you don't always have the right person looking at the data to make the right sense of it. So in the past, and even now, you can kind of think about different skills needed in data engineering, which is more on the technical side, all the way to business user, which is really not as technical. But to really make that data come together, you need to bring those people together to produce that solution for your customers or for your problem. So what Microsoft Fabric does is it has taken a lot of our old products and put them together into one collaborative app experience. So it can help you find your data no matter where it is, asterisk so we don't get sued, right? But there's a lot of way to very comprehensively find your data, whether it's on-prem, in Azure already, in another cloud, and bring it in and transform it in a way that you don't have to have as specific of skills. So I know we're going to talk about Copilot, but what it helps you do is up-level some of the conversations so you don't have to have a specialist for each stage. And that's such a theme in the Copilot experience, is helping your business professionals or your IT professionals do a little bit more. So one of the great features is if you're just really ambitious and you're on the business side, but you know you need to look at a very specific view, you can go in and use Copilot experience to help find that data, to transform it yourself, or to really create that exact view that you need to solve your challenge. So because Fabric is so comprehensive, it's hard to say what it is exactly, but any organization or any partner that's thinking about how they can bring AI to life, some of our packaged SaaS solutions like Copilot are great for going and using generative AI to come up with solutions that don't really need specific context. But as soon as you're trying to solve specific business challenges, that needs to be tied to your specific business data. And that's where Fabric comes in. It helps you understand your data, translate it into a form that's easy to understand and ready for aggregation, and then put an analytics solution on top of it so that you can standardize that and make it repeatable. Otherwise, you have to do a transformation every time you have to ask a question, and that's just not efficient. So it's helping it automate and bring those to life so that you can have better insights on your data.
And before you ask the next question, Elaine, I do want to point out that what you're saying is exactly setting us up for success for our season finale, because the final season episode is about building your own app. So exactly bringing that data and making it ready. So, man, you're setting us up for success.
That's exactly right, because the third part of the equation, right, is once you have your data and you've applied it to it, how are people going to interact with it? Is this going to be in some sort of business dashboard like Power BI where someone's going to look at it, or is it going to be in an application that goes out and creates more data that you're going to bring back in and create an even better product?
So John, obviously our audience are our fabulous Microsoft partners. You've talked a little bit about the importance of Fabric and data. Why should our partners care, and what's the opportunity for them?
Yeah, and I think one thing I forgot to talk about in Fabric is that it helps simplify the process as well. So for our partners, Fabric is a complete SaaS experience. So it has simplified pricing. You'll pay for your capacity and you'll pay for your storage. And it provides 7 different applications and a unified storage to help you do all of your data and analytics needs. So it's become a more simplified journey, and it's also very competitive on the pricing standpoint. So it's brought down so that our partners can provide analytics solutions to a much broader range of customers. So, and I'm going to be a little broad here because every organization is trying to do more with their data. Basically, any customer that's looking to create an AI solution that is tied to their business data should consider Fabric. Even more on that, a lot of organizations, when they start using analytics solutions, just want to know what data they have. If we think about the adoption curve for working with data and analytics, a lot of the time it's just saying, what's going on with my business? And if organizations are there, it's starting with a visualization tool like Power BI, with the new Copilot features really is powerful. So you'll see that you can automate a lot of report creations, you can generate it, you can ask questions directly from your data, and then you can even go to the stage where you're using Copilot in data warehousing or data science, where someone like myself, I don't have much Python or SQL experience, but I can use Copilot, to ask questions of it and to do simple scripts that can make me so much more efficient. So it's a great place to start. But looking at what the customer needs are, if I want to be more specific, any customer with Power BI or a competitive visualization tool already understands the importance of looking at their data, and that would be a good customer to go see if there might be a good target for Fabric.
John, my next question for you, I think you've already half answered, so I'll let you complete it, because my question was, who is Fabric a good fit for?
Is that on the customer side or for our partners?
I would say for both, but it was originally aimed at the customer side.
Yeah, so like I said before, customers that are looking to do more with their data or to understand how they can drive business outcomes. So we've seen a lot of reports come out about what are the top opportunities or challenges that customer face, and all across the top 10 is they don't understand the data they have. There's data sprawl, which means they're collecting more data than they're getting value out of it. So customers that are trying to meet specific goals and just don't have a good grasp on their data are going to be good targets for the Fabric solution. If customers already have an analytics solution in place with Databricks, Snowflake, or another solution, Synapse Engineering, they might be a good case for bringing that, because Fabric has OneLake, which really simplifies the data management aspect and ties with Purview very nicely. But it's also opening up a wide spectrum for customers who might not have thought, they might have been priced out of other solutions, or they might not have seen the need for it. And then I'll say the final one, I'll say this again, is customers thinking about implementing AI. AI is only as good as your data. And what Fabric does is it helps you make sense of your data and organize it so that you can then put AI on top of it and get even deeper insights on your data.
So walk us through maybe one or two use cases or best use cases for applying Fabric.
Yeah. One of my favorite use cases is maybe on customers that are adopting it for the first time and don't have another solution, but it's just removing data silos. So we've talked to a few customers who say, well, we have an organization that's not large, let's say it's 50 to 60 people, but we just have so many different views. When we ask a question, let's say we have 4 different applications that collect a bunch of data, but we don't connect them together. So when someone asks us a question, whether it be inventory, customer satisfaction, marketing, we don't have a way of linking those together. So we can look at what the marketing campaign is and success that's with the data contained within that application, or we can look at our sales over here, but we can't really tie the two together. So just being able to take data from disparate sources, put them into a single view, standardize them, and then have one view of the data is so beneficial. So especially at Microsoft, I should say, we have a lot of different views of our data. And to be able to say, we're just going to have one view that our finance team can look at, our operations team, our marketing team, our sales team, would help the team be so efficient and remove a lot of those questions, so that when someone asks a question like, what are our top 3 opportunities and what are the risk factors there, every team across the organization will have the same answer, in theory. So that's one of the use cases.
Isn't that the dream?
That's the dream. We're selling the dream. The second use case is a little bit more specific for going up market, but real-time analytics. And we just announced some new product releases at Build, which is really helping customers not just know what's going on, but have up to the almost second understanding. It's more like 15 minutes, but really understand so that they can do things like inventory management, supply chain optimization. And that's really just understanding, how do we look at real-time view of my inventory, of my data state, and put in the right triggers and functionality so that you can keep that up to date and make decisions to respond in real time. So that's something that's going to be much more comprehensive, and probably for organizations that are more mature in their data state modernization, but it's just a great use case, and it really helps organizations solve business challenges, but also think about using AI efficiently.
And now I want to dive deeper into Copilot, because I know Fabric not only enables the construction, building, and developing of Copilots, but also it has capabilities itself to democratize data, like you were saying. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so right now the capabilities of Copilot are tied to having a certain SKU. So if you look at Fabric capacity, you have to have an F64 or higher. So when you unlock the Copilot capabilities within Fabric, you're able to really see Copilot attached to Power BI, to data warehousing, and to data engineering. And in Power BI, what that means is, if you've seen some of the demo videos, you can automate report creations. So it all comes together, because if you've tied your data sources together, all of your data is within OneLake, and Copilot has access to that data. So you can build a report on that data with normal language. So if you think about a normal structure where you have Power BI specialists and business users, you can actually make both parties more efficient, because a business user doesn't have to work with a Power BI engineer to create a report. They can create their own report. They can customize it themselves. I know a lot of us are very visual, and we like things to be in a certain format. So business users can go in and create custom views that they like themselves. And it also makes it much more efficient for the data engineer or Power BI analyst on the other side. I'm sure no analyst loves going and creating 30 different reports. And with Copilot, you can automate that and just make it so much quicker. And then I think I mentioned this already, but on the data warehousing, when you're pulling data in, this is very technical, and a lot of the times you have to have some SQL coding experience or Python if you're using notebooks. With Copilot, it actually helps you write that code. So someone like myself who understands the data structure but doesn't know Python, I can use a Spark notebook, use a magic code, and then it will help me write the code, and I can go in and check to make sure that it's doing what it wants. So I wouldn't recommend this for a production environment, but it really helps you upskill some of your employees and get more out of what they can do and help them create these reports or go further without having to be so specialized. This also goes back to one of the inherent benefits and the design principles of Fabric is that it brings teams together because there's 7 applications from data warehousing, data engineering, Power BI, but they're all within the same application. So when you load it up, if you're on a team, you can load up a view in Power BI and then go into the bottom left and click it and switch to data warehousing. Then it's so easy just have this conversation where an engineer can come over and say, well, here's how I set up my warehouse, here's the different tables, and the business user can say, okay, well, in my Power BI report, switch right to it. Here's the fields I'm trying to see, and they can collaborate together. So it really helps bring all the parties together to create that just better data culture.
Better data culture. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow, as a marketing person, I'm thinking about Python right now and how maybe there's somewhere for me to learn through
There you
Fabric.
Well, on the announcement, you can also use Python and Excel through Copilot, turns out.
Oh,
Wow.
awesome. All right, John. So before we let you go, and without any slides, what advice would you give to our partners who want to learn more about Fabric?
What I experienced myself and what I've talked to a lot of partners doing Fabric is it's almost to see it to believe it. So when you're actually within the platform and you're going in and you're using the visual query and saying, oh my gosh, I used to do this in Excel and it took me 10 hours, or I pay someone a lot of money to do this and I can do this myself, like just how much you realize it simplifies the data process and just helps you come together. So I'd say get hands-on experience. One of the good parts about Fabric is it's one of our new flashy products, so we have a lot of great technical content. So if you go to MS Learn, it will give you, and you go through, let's say, the DP600 environment, it will give you sandbox environments so you can go in and actually use it yourself. We also have a 60-day trial right now, so you can go in and use Fabric at that F64 capacity for 60 days. The only thing that you don't have is access to Copilot, but you can go in on MS Learn again. There are some end-to-end tutorials, so you can not just go in and play around with it, but you can actually say, okay, I have this scenario, I want to learn how to do a full data warehouse, and it'll walk you through. So as a partner or someone trying to sell Fabric, I always think it's so important to go in and experience it yourself. So that's my number one recommendation.
It's very consistent with every time we talk about new technologies, everybody's like, you gotta get your hands dirty. John, thank you so much. I know you got a mountain to climb, a bike to ride, and more Fabric to learn. So we'll let you go. But we are so grateful that you made such a sometimes overwhelming and scary topic like how do we make our data so powerful for the era of AI? You made it so accessible for everybody that's listening. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
And for the second part of our episode, we have a partner in the room. Nothing is more exciting than now hearing it from their perspective and their story. And they actually have a case study recently published on their success with Microsoft Fabric.
So today we have Lantern here. And from Lantern, we have Daniel Brown. He's a business intelligence practice lead at Lantern. He's built his career on the Microsoft BI stack with a heavy focus on Power BI solutions. He really enjoys building long-term relationships with clients to help them drive a data-driven culture. Welcome, Daniel. We also have Drew Cordell, who is a project manager at Lantern. Drew has spent his career working in the Microsoft ecosystem and enjoys helping customers leverage the Microsoft stack to empower their business and solve complex problems. Welcome, Drew. So before we get started, if one of you can just give us a little bit of a background on Lantern and what your company does.
Absolutely. We are a Microsoft-only consulting company, really specializing in data and AI. We also have a robust app development practice and modern web design, and really just focus on driving exceptional outcomes for our customers, helping empower them in the era of AI.
Fantastic.
Thanks for sharing that. So Daniel, Drew, this is a question. You can alternate the next answers, but this is one for both of you. before we jump into your amazing story with avocados from Mexico, I want to ask you something a bit more personal, which is, what is your favorite Copilot prompt? What is one that you cannot live without these days?
Sure, I'm happy to go first. So, being in project management, I really enjoy leveraging Copilot to recap meeting notes, action items, next steps of my project. I can stay focused on paying attention to the meeting, spend less time actually taking those notes, and then just have a really robust list of everything that happened and everything that needs to happen in my projects. It's really been helping me drive success for my clients and be more efficient with my time.
Yeah, and for me, Drew and I were kind of joking that I might need to leverage this to get my Copilot license lit up because those are still rolling out across the organization, and so Drew got it first. But I do leverage his meeting summaries; they're super valuable in the consulting space. We're constantly doing meetings that are requirements gathering and working with our clients, and so the ability for Copilot to kind of summarize and kind of task out things is very helpful.
That's awesome that you also can tell the experience from the receiving end
Yep,
of a
exactly.
great recap, right? I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and it'll be awesome to check back in with you both in 6 months from now. And I'm sure you'll have a whole list of favorite Copilot prompts. So, our first question for you is, what is Microsoft? We heard earlier from John about Microsoft Fabric, but what has Microsoft Fabric brought to your analytics practice?
Yeah, so for us, it's really expanded kind of the market for us. I mean, I think we we worked a lot with business groups when it comes to Power BI solutions, and I think the the single platform of Fabric is expanding who can access it, right? And so we've done a lot of Azure-based BI solutions from data warehousing and Synapse, but now with Fabric, and I know we'll talk about it more later on the avocados case. It brings less technical people into the space and gives them the ability to interact with data in a new way. And so I think just like the model of Power BI and how that expanded business capabilities, Fabric is doing the same thing. And so that expands kind of who we can engage with within organizations and have conversations around their data because of a platform like Fabric.
That's exciting to hear and very consistent to what John was sharing earlier. But you made this real with avocados from Mexico. So that's our next question. Tell us about that story.
Absolutely. This is one of our long-term customers, and I was first introduced to them in 2022 and have been working as their project manager since then. They are an extremely innovative and forward-looking company. They work in marketing to really try to expand the reach of avocados. They have a very innovative goal of becoming the number one global per capita consumption of avocados, and that the United States would do that. It's something that would be very challenging for them, but they're up for the challenge of. And they're a small organization of about 45 people, but they really punch above their weight class for the size of the organization. And we really learned they needed to innovate and build up their analytics capabilities and invest in that. So we learned pretty quickly that Fabric was going to be a great fit for them. They had, in the previous state, many separate individual data sources and countless individual spreadsheets for manual reporting. You could ask someone in the organization the same question and get many different answers throughout the day. So it was a perfect use case for the technology. And really, how we went about this project, we wanted to make sure that they could trust in that data, that we had certified data sets for them, that they had really robust reporting to answer these critical business questions, and just have that ability to make the data driven decisions that are going to drive those business outcomes for them. So we implemented the Fabric solution over a number of months, connected many different data sources, and centralized it in one location. And we were able to take a reporting process that was needed on a weekly basis, just completely critical to the success of the organization. It used to take 4 hours. Now that they can generate that reporting in less than 15 minutes. So
Wow.
substantial time, cost savings all around, and just really strong use case and a show for the platform here.
Well, as a big avocado fan, I think I'm the equivalent of John earlier for Fabric, but for avocados, such a big consumer. So thank you for making the avocado business expand as a customer.
It's funny, Fede, because what I was going to say is that now I'm thinking about guacamole and I'm thinking about how can I ask Copilot what all the different options are for guacamole. So I too love avocados. So Tell us a little bit about the Copilot capabilities within Fabric and how you believe that adds value to your customers, and who are the people that really benefit most from that.
Yeah, and I might be a repeat of John from earlier. I think what it does is it just expands the capabilities of people, right? So when you talk about on the data engineering side and maybe not having certain skill sets, being able to write prompts to create that code, I think brings a lot of value, right? And kind of expands the skill set across teams. And then on the Power BI side, the really exciting thing there is if you obviously get your data model in the right kind of business terms that we always dimensionally model our models, right? And try to get them in the language that the business speaks so that it's easy for analytics. Well, if you do that well, then the ability to tap into Copilot to write prompts, to build visuals, and to build a whole report page for you in seconds, again, takes the ability. You don't have to be a highly skilled, Power BI developer. It gives speed to development for business groups because maybe in a lot of these organizations, they have to create a whole backlog of items for an IT group, right, that has these developers. Well, if they have access to the data and they can write prompts, then they can start generating their own reports and get to their data a lot quicker.
Yeah, I love that. How we're making it more accessible to ultimately fulfill our mission of empowering everybody to achieve more. So um, I also appreciate how you are at the tip of the spear with Fabric. And I'm really wondering for the partners that are listening, what can they learn about how this has benefited you as an organization, as a business?
Yeah, absolutely. From my perspective, we've been really fortunate that we have some exceptional technical talent that we work with and some Microsoft MVPs in our organization. So we had private preview access to Fabric well ahead of the general availability. So it was really awesome to just get hands on with that really early into the development cycle and really be able to upskill and learn that ahead of a lot of our customers. So we've been able to really build a lot of that expertise and showcase the work that we've done for some of these implementations like avocados from Mexico. And it's really led to numerous new opportunities within Fabric across new customers we hadn't been talking to previously. Just a strong growth overall to the sales pipeline and ultimately more work for us as consultants. So it's been really great.
And I would just add, for any of the partners out there that are listening, I think similar to what John said, get your hands on it, right? Start playing with it. You'll see that if you've worked in the Azure ecosystem, you'll see that there's a lot of familiarity with the underlying technologies, and you can get up to speed pretty quick. And then I think when you're engaging with customers, what we've seen is kind of starting with kind of the proof of concept type projects, right? Because again, you know, customers can be kind of hesitant to the new thing on the market, right? I think avocados from Mexico is an exception where they're very forward looking and wanting to be on the cutting edge, but that's not always the case, right? And so, being able to kind of start small, show the value of your team, and then also show the value of the technology is a great way to get started.
And I think you're kind of answering our last question as we wrap up here today, but we'll give you an opportunity to expand on that, right? Which is, what advice would you give to your peers as they consider Fabric for their data practice? We've heard, obviously, being a user of the product as kind of your baseline, but are there other tips and tricks you might give to your peers?
Yeah, what I would say is be willing to get out of your comfort zone. I think the more you can kind of expand across the Fabric platform within your own practices, within your own teams, and kind of learn together, right? Where maybe certain people had just certain skill sets, but I think this opens the door for people to gain more skill sets, and you can leverage Copilot to kind of help accelerate that. You can, like John said, since there's so many different experiences, you can work together a lot more seamlessly within that environment and share that knowledge across the team. So I think what's been successful for us is the collaboration piece, right? And so start to pull on your peers that maybe have touched it first and start asking questions, start having, lunch and learns and different things to get up to speed because I mean, what we're seeing is this really is kind of the future of the data platform kind of product line, right? Is this single SKU SaaS offering, and so I think you'll see more and more customers wanting to go this way, and so the more you can can collaborate around it and upskill on it will provide value to your business.
And I would just build on what Daniel said a little bit. One thing that I've really seen is, and I would encourage to other partners, is work to empower your customers to take ownership of their platform, become more self-sufficient there. There's a lot of powerful things that happen when they learn how to use the platform, and they can more organically create some of those additional reporting capabilities and drive those outcomes for their business.
Thank you, because I think you've added the next layer of it. We've been saying AI is good as your data, but also putting it in the hands of your customers and empowering them to use it and making them the real owners, because they are. That takes it to a whole new level. It's worth the learning curve. It's worth trying something different because there is that reward at the other end. So really encouraging when you read your case and now hearing you talk about it. What a great way to wrap up our 5th episode, Helene. We're almost over.
Almost there.
I'll say thank you first and foremost for really making it real since the private preview to now that the case is out there. Daniel and Drew, thank you for sharing your story, your experiences with your peers. They will be so inspired by you. And for the audience, stay with us for the 6th episode, because we will take these learnings not only from this episode and the first 4, and we will talk about building your own copilots with either extension or with the Azure platform. So stay tuned for that. We look forward to seeing you. We hope today's conversations have ignited fresh perspectives and inspired you to take new opportunities in this changing landscape of AI.
Stay tuned for more insights and stories on No Slides Attached. Be sure to listen in and follow us at noslidesAttached.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.